Welcome to Anti-Woke and Autistic. I want to talk about banking calories. Now, somebody who banks calories in anticipation for a big feast, such as Thanksgiving, does not necessarily have an eating disorder. And it's really not fair to assume that people who bank calories have an eating disorder. For instance, if you normally consume 2,000 calories a day, but then, in anticipation for a big holiday feast, you go down to 1,500 calories a day for 4 days, you just banked 2,000 calories. So, if the fifth day is Thanksgiving or some other feast, then you can eat 4,000 calories that day and kind of even things out. 1,500 calories a day is not true restrictive eating. You can get a lot of nutrition packed in that 1,500 calories. When you bank calories, it is not recommended to go overboard, like for instance, 300 or 500 or 800 calories a day for 2 weeks, or even 500 calories a day for just 3 or 4 days, because then you'll be excessively hungry come the day of that feast, and then you'll probably eat 7 or 8,000 calories. Then you'll just feel guilty, and then the next day you'll overeat and all that stuff. But if you just be reasonable about it, banking calories, that doesn't mean it's an eating disorder, doesn't mean it's going to put you at risk for an eating disorder. Think of it as management, as tactics, as strategy. And then on the day of the feast, you could splurge and have 4,000 give or take calories. Now, when you bank calories, it is highly recommended that you choose your food wisely since you're working with a smaller amount of calories. You want to eat nutrient-dense foods. You want to have a limitation on processed foods. Well, you should limit processed foods anyways because they're just not good for the body. But especially if you're going down to 1,500 calories a day to bank calories, you want to make sure you make very healthy, wise food choices, high fiber, quality protein like grass-fed beef instead of grain-fed beef, eggs, brown rice, whole grains, lentils, whole fruit, berries, a handful of nuts. In fact, a handful of nuts or sunflower seeds, for instance, will go a long way at suppressing hunger, and it's very satisfying. They contain healthy fats, good source of protein, and of course, they're steamed vegetables. You can make a tuna salad, you could have a grilled chicken breast. So you could actually eat a lot of food for 1,500 calories if you choose wisely. Again, you don't have to go overboard as far as eating nothing but green salads and stir-fried vegetables all day long to make that 1,500, but just maybe cut out processed foods entirely, or for that day, just don't eat any sweets or ice cream or anything like that, like candy bars, etc. Should you go down to 1,000 calories? Well, why not stick to 1,500, give or take? If you go down too far, you'll get really hungry and irritable and cranky, and then you just might blow it and overindulge before the feast. And then come the day of the feast, you might feel miserable or guilty or not so great because you blew your banking efforts. So stick to something reasonable that's almost like what you normally eat, but do it for like 5 days or even 7 days. Then that way it's more realistic, it's more sustainable, you won't feel deprived. And then come the day of the feast, you'll have many, many, many calories banked up. Now, if you bank, let's say 2,000 or 3,000 calories, depending on how many days, you go into a 500 a day calorie deficit, but then you eat like 8 or 9 or 10,000 calories on the day of that big feast, then you went really overboard and you're in a significant caloric surplus. Either way, whether you stick to the plan or deviate from it somehow, the day after the feast, you don't have to starve yourself. You don't have to go down to 500 calories a day and then jog for 2 hours straight or anything like that. Just go back to your normal, typical eating habits. So, like I said, if you normally eat 2,000 calories a day and on the day of the feast you ate 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 calories a day, you had to have 3 or 4 slices of Nana's legendary apple pie. You just really, really ate a lot of food. Next day, ground zero. Just resume your normal eating habits. Don't eat salads all day and then try to get by on only 1,000 calories. Your body will work things out if you just go back to your normal healthy eating habits and, of course, your normal exercise habits. Don't make too much of a big deal about it. But again, You don't have to feel guilty or like something's wrong with you just because you've decided to bank calories. When the fat acceptance people say banking calories means that you have a restrictive eating disorder, they're doing the exact thing that they don't want people doing towards them, which is assuming or making judgments and assumptions about their eating habits when they don't know them personally. So how many times have you heard about a morbidly obese fat acceptance cult member getting all steamed up because she's been accused of sitting around all day, being lazy, and stuffing her face with junk food all day long? Yet she's the exact person who's going to accuse a slimmer person or a straight sized person of having a restrictive eating disorder just because they bank calories in anticipation of a big feast. This cuts both ways. So don't be presumptive and assume just because somebody you know is eating light for several days or even a whole week preceding a big holiday feast, don't assume they have an eating disorder or some problem with their self-worth or a mental health issue or something negative like that. They could be the most emotionally healthy, psychologically strong person in the world. Don't make assumptions. So those are my recommendations for banking calories. It's perfectly okay to do it as long as you do it within reason. Happy holidays.